I think the biggest concern is growing polarization on sectarian, on religious grounds in India, because the ruling party, the Bharatiya Janata Party, or what's called BJP abbreviation, BJP is a Hindu majoritarian party. It's a right-wing Hindu majoritarian party, and most of its politics usually is centered around polarization, particularly on the issue of Muslims.
That was Indian journalist and representative of the Committee to Protect Journalists Kunal Majumder describing his concerns prior to the country's general election that lasted more than a month from April 19th to June 1st. And as the poll closed last Saturday, I decided to sit down again with Kunal and talk about the election results. My name is Ira Xu, and you're listening to The Divide.
So we had the counting of the votes on 4th of June, Tuesday, and the results have thrown up a fractured parliament. The last ruling party, Bharatiya Janata Party, which is the abbreviation is BJP, which is a Hindu right-wing political party. They have failed to get even a simple majority. In fact, they were hoping for a two-third majority, and now they are looking for partners. They found two partners who would possibly support them, and the Prime Minister, the last Prime Minister Narendra Modi is expected to return for a third term, which is historic. No other, except for the first Prime Minister of India, Nehru, nobody else had a third consecutive term. So he's expected to be sworn in on Saturday. So far, dates might change. But yeah, that's where it stands. In terms of the opposition has become stronger. The last two terms, opposition was pretty weak, and the BJP was accused of uh, doing a lot of pushing a lot of its agenda, which was seen quote unquote as undemocratic, which is expected to be slowed down with a stronger opposition in place.
Back in April, everyone predicted the ruling BJP to take the majority of the seats in the House. Here's journalist Amrita Madhukalia describing the popularity of the BJP back in April.
The popularity of Modi is right now unmatched. Okay, but we are also looking at a few things that are happening. In 10 years down the lane, BJP has tried to this year they have tried to steer the conversation to this idea of development, where they're saying that we are going to make India a developed state, developed country by 2047.
And now that idea of development requires the BJP to work with other parties.
Yes, definitely. This is quite a surprise. Nobody was were able to predict it. There were a few people who did predict it, but vast majority expected BJP to return back with a stronger if not a two-third majority, but definitely a better performance than what it did last time. Last year, in a parliament of 543 seats, the lower house of Indian Parliament has 543 seats. The midpoint is 272 in order to form a government. Last term, which is 2019, the parliament which was formed in 2019, BJP had 303 seats. This term, they have only 240. So they are short by 32 seats. So this was not expected, though many opposition leaders claim that they kept on mentioning that they would do better, but nobody was taking them for seriously. And yeah, this is what happened finally.
So who are the biggest opposition to the BJP?
So the biggest opposition alliance, which is abbreviated as India, as the country I.N.D.I.A, it's the full form is something on those lines. They have got 200, if I'm not mistaken, 232 together. The biggest party in the alliance is Indian National Congress, which is basically the party which was involved in India's the freedom struggle, which is really the grand old party of India, so to speak. And they got around 99 seats. And then there are a few other partners, specifically in Uttar Pradesh, which is the largest state. There, the opposition party, Samajwadi Party, has got, I think, around about 30 something seats. And in West Bengal, which is the next after Uttar Pradesh, the next big state, there the opposition party Trinamool Congress has got another, I think, 28 seats. So these were the two states where BJP was expected to do much better, or at least have a status quo as in the last elections. But BJP actually did much worse, much worse actually, since and they've lost their seats, and thus the opposition has become much stronger. We see many parties which were otherwise weak in the last two parliaments have suddenly emerged as big players, both in the ruling coalition alliances as well in the opposition alliance.
So now with a stronger opposition in the parliament, will Narendra Modi and his ruling BJP adjust their ultra-right-wing policies?
Last two governments, 2014 and 2019, BJP had majority on its own, and it managed to push through a lot of its right wing agendas. Uh, it would be very difficult for BJP to do the same in this parliament, the next parliament, primarily because it doesn't have the numbers, number one. And number two, in order to stay in power, it has aligned with two smaller parties which are actually not right wing. One is out and out Socialist Party, and the other one is somewhere in the middle. And both the parties has a strong Muslim base, so that's another important factor. So we are expecting that Prime Minister Modi, in his 3.0 avatar, is going to be a more mellowed version of who he was in the last two governments.
During their election campaign, Modi and BJP touted India's transformation from a rural economy to an industrial one. But as the election concluded, many voters didn't seem to be buying into this narrative. And on June 6, English language newspaper Indian Express published a report titled BJP's vote share shrinks in most states with lower growth rates in per capita income.
One of the rhetorics played up in the national media, or sometimes we call it Delhi media because most of the national media is based in and around Delhi. There was a lot of propaganda and hype around India becoming the fifth largest economy in the world. However, BJP's campaign never took into consideration the per capita income in the country. It was talking about the overall strength of the economy, which of course is important, but it accounts for not just, it doesn't account for everyone. I mean, because when you have a big economy, it is not truly a reflection of the individual ordinary person on the street. Per capita income on its own is a far more realistic reflection of the economic strength of a country. So when we look at the per capita income of India, it has actually gone in negative in some of the states in India since in the last 10 years. So, at one hand, while in the Narendra Modi government was tom-tomming about the fact that India has become the third largest economy and how within next few years going to become, has become the fifth largest economy and how in the next few years going to become the third largest economy. But it completely ignores the fact that the ordinary person on the street or the person who's running their families, trying to put food on the table, their lives have become difficult. And this Indian Express report, which came out today and I shared on my LinkedIn, shows that it did a state-wise analysis and showed that how the per capita income in different states have actually has a direct correlationship with the lower margins of vote that BJP received in the election. So clearly, at the end of the day, it really matters for the ordinary person how much are they benefiting from government policies. It's not just merely rhetorics, and that's the point that I was trying to make.
As India enjoys everyone's envy of becoming a greater economy, many are feeling left behind. Milan Maishnev, director of the South Asia program at the Carnegie Endowment for International Peace, told the Associated Press that you have a booming economy for people higher up on the socioeconomic ladder, but people lower down are really struggling. According to the Center for Monitoring Indian Economy, an independent research institution in Mumbai, India has about 1 billion working-age population, but it only has about 430 million jobs. And generating more jobs will be one of the biggest challenges Modi has to face. And to add to that challenge, India's opposition Congress Party is now demanding an investigation into the sharp stock market moves towards the end of the election after it became apparent that BJP will not be holding a majority in the parliament. That's when India's stock market saw its biggest fall in 4 years. And now the Congress leader Rahul Gandhi is accusing Modi of giving misleading investment advice.
I have personally lost money in the stock exchange, but the thing is that there is a reason why that plunge happened, because the expectation of Narendra Modi coming back in with full majority was very high, and we have something called the exit polls, which are usually polls done after the elections, and they were announced a day before the results were out, 2 days before the results were out, and they actually predicted that Modi would be back in power with all these massive majority, and they got it wrong. Infamously, Indian exit polls have most of the time got it wrong. Very few times have Indian exit polls been right. But based on the exit polls, a lot of the investors, I think, started kind of planning. And the moment the BJP didn't get it majority, there was also a feeling of uncertainty. And as you know, that the industry always looks for stability politically. So there was a fear of instability, and thus the stock exchange had a record dip. But today, just yesterday, I was seeing it has risen by again back nominally, but hopefully, I think by Saturday when the Prime Minister is sworn in, and by all accounts, this is going to be a stable government. There is no doubt about it. And politically, we are obviously looking at some restraining of BJP's ultra right wing agenda. But economically, whether that's BJP or Congress, they always had the same economic policy. It's never been separate. It's very similar. In fact, the economic reforms were started by the Congress in 91 when the country started opening up. And it has been taken on by BJP and then again Congress and now again BJP. So there is no double speak on this, or you're not expecting overnight any changes, because even if BJP was not to come to power, the policies would have still continued to be the same, because there is a general consensus between all political parties in India that we have to continue with the economic reforms which were started in 91.
According to Richard Ambrosio, Senior Advisor and Chair in U.S.-India Policy Studies at the Center for Strategic International Studies, India has a near 10% trade deficit, and its agricultural labor force, nearly half of all labor in the nation, is shifting to cities and seeking formal, lower-skilled employment. And these will be the driving concerns for a BJP-led coalition government. Apart from economic concerns, I asked Kunal whether there have been any press freedom violations during the election.
There were a few instances where we saw some police cases opened against journalists. For example, in Uttar Pradesh, there were instances where there were police cases opened against journalists for reporting about some disagreements between candidates in the ruling Bharatiya Janata Party, BJP. There were some instances of manhandling by different political parties, not just BJP, but also Aam Aadmi Party. But overall, we didn't see a massive spike per se in any cases against of violence against journalists or any kind of retribution against journalists. But there were it wasn't a clean slate. I mean, it wasn't all hunky dory. There were instances as well, but much less than it wasn't very alarming. Let me put it that way.
In the end, India's 6-week election is democracy at work. It checked the power of the BJP.
There is a renewed hope in the country, particularly among civil society, journalists, opposition parties, dissenters, on that there's going to be the space that was growingly shrinking in the country in terms of dissenting or having a free wielding democratic space. That's hopefully going to be one is going to get that space back. And there's been I mean, even though BJP is still in power, Prime Minister Modi is still returning, but the fact that he's weakened and there was a democratic mandate where people told him that they do not agree and they send him a message. In fact, Telegraph, which is a newspaper published out of Calcutta, had a very interesting headline, says Modi wins a third term, India sends him a message. So India, both in terms of opposition as well as the country, sends up a message that there is a line that one has to draw while you're implementing your party's agenda.
Thank you for listening. This episode of The Divide is produced by Radio Taiwan International.